The air hung heavy in the orphanage playroom, thick with the excited chatter of children and the rustle of wrapping paper. James, a kind-hearted retired carpenter with a gentle smile, was helping out with the annual holiday toy drive, arranging donated games and dolls on tables. His hands, though no longer wielding a hammer and saw, still moved with a quiet purpose. He loved these visits, the chance to see the bright eyes and hopeful faces of the children, who, for now, called this place home. It was amidst the joyful chaos that he saw him. A boy, maybe 10 or 11, standing slightly apart from the others, watching the activity with a quiet intensity. There was something about the boy, a familiarity that tugged at James's heartstrings. He looked like someone James knew, like someone from his past. Intrigued, James found himself drawn towards the boy. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and in that brief connection, James felt a pull he couldn't explain, a sense of profound recognition that went beyond a simple resemblance. He didn't know it then, but this encounter in the bustling playroom would unlock a secret held close for years, a secret that would rewrite the story of his own life. Years ago, James had been a young man, full of dreams and the energy of youth. He worked as a carpenter's apprentice, his hands already skilled, his mind filled with designs for furniture and homes. His life in their small, quiet town was simple, centered around work, family, and the thrill of playing baseball with his friends on warm summer evenings. It was at one of these games, held in the park near the old oak tree, that he saw her, a girl with a radiant smile, her hair like spun gold, her eyes sparkling with mischief and warmth. Her name was Emily. Their connection was immediate, a swift, undeniable current that pulled them together. First love in all its sweet, innocent intensity bloomed like a wildflower in the summer sun. They spent hours together, walking hand in hand, talking about everything and nothing, their young hearts open and vulnerable. As their last year of high school drew to a close, the future felt both exciting and uncertain. College plans were being made, paths that might take them to different towns, but they promised to stay together, their love strong enough, they believed, to conquer any distance. Then, without warning, Emily was gone. One morning, her seat in class was empty. Her phone went unanswered. James, consumed by worry, went to her house. He was met at the door by her father, a man who had always been kind to James, welcoming him into their home. But that day, his face was tight, his eyes avoiding James's. He spoke only a few clipped sentences. Emily had gone to stay with an aunt in another state. For a while. That was all he would say. James was heartbroken, confused. He tried calling, writing letters, pleading for an explanation, but his calls weren't returned. His letters went unanswered. Emily had simply vanished from his life, leaving a gaping hole in his heart and 100 unanswered questions swirling in his mind. Eventually, with a heavy heart, he accepted that she was gone. Life, as it often does, moved forward. James went to trade school in another town, focusing on his carpentry, building a successful career. He made new friends, built a good life for himself. The memory of Emily remained, a sweet, sad ache, a chapter closed but never forgotten, a reminder of the fragile beauty of first love and the pain of unexplained loss. Decades passed. James built beautiful furniture, designed and built houses, his hands shaping wood with skill and passion. He found satisfaction in his work, in the tangible results of his labor. He traveled some, saw different parts of the country, but the quiet dream of having a family, of sharing his life and his home with someone special, of perhaps having children to teach the craft he loved, remained just that, a quiet, unfulfilled longing. Life had been good to him in many ways, but that deep, central peace felt missing. Now retired, with time on his hands and a heart still open to kindness, he found himself drawn to volunteering, particularly at the local children's orphanage. It felt like a way to give back, to connect with the world in a different way, which brought him back to this busy playroom, this cheerful holiday drive, and the boy whose face held such a striking resemblance to his own childhood photographs. The boy, sensing James's gaze, finally approached him. "Hello," he said shyly, holding out a small hand-drawn card. "Thank you for the toys." "Hello," James replied, his voice gentle, taking the card. You're very welcome. What's your name? My name is Thomas, the boy said. His eyes, so like James's own had been at that age, wide and curious. James felt another jolt of recognition, a wave of emotion he couldn't name. He knew that face, that smile, those eyes. He looked at the boy, then back at the crowd of volunteers and children. He noticed a small group standing slightly apart, watching Thomas with warmth and affection. A man and a woman, seemingly in their late 30s or early 40s, and another older woman with kind eyes. They didn't look like volunteers, more like visitors, or perhaps family. Thomas seemed very comfortable with them. James, his curiosity piqued beyond measure, decided to introduce himself to the family. As he spoke with Thomas's parents, a lovely couple named Michael and Sarah, he learned that Thomas wasn't a resident of the orphanage, but was visiting with them. Thomas loves coming here, Sarah explained, smiling at the boy. He feels a special connection to this place. Yes, Thomas chimed in, his voice earnest. This is where I lived when I was a baby, until Michael and Sarah adopted me. Adopted. The word hung in the air for a moment, adding another layer of unexpected complexity to the situation. Michael and Sarah spoke with immense love and pride about Thomas, about the joy he had brought into their lives, about how they had met him through the orphanage's adoption program. They were clearly devoted parents. As they talked, James couldn't shake the feeling of familiarity, the uncanny resemblance between Thomas and his own childhood self. He felt compelled to ask about Thomas's background, about his biological parents. He knew it was a delicate subject, but the pull was too strong to resist. Michael and Sarah shared that Thomas, when he was old enough, had expressed a desire to learn about his birth family. They had fully supported his wish and had, with the help of the adoption agency, made contact with his biological mother. She's a wonderful woman, Sarah said warmly. Thomas has developed a lovely relationship with her, like a beloved aunt in a way. We all keep in touch. And then Sarah mentioned her name. Her name is Emily. James's world tilted. Emily, his Emily, the girl who had vanished from his life all those years ago. The boy standing before him, the spitting image of James at the same age, adopted from this very orphanage, whose biological mother was named Emily. It couldn't be a coincidence. The pieces clicked into place with a dizzying speed, a truth both astonishing and terrifying. He excused himself politely from the family, his mind reeling. He needed air. He needed to process this overwhelming revelation. Thomas, his biological mother named Emily, adopted from this orphanage where Emily's parents had sent her away so long ago. It all fit together in a way that was almost unbelievable. Could Thomas be his son? The child of his first love? The child he never knew existed? Driven by a desperate need for answers, James left the orphanage, promising himself he would return soon after he had sought out the truth. He drove to the town where he and Emily had grown up, a place he hadn't visited in years. He went to the familiar street, to the house where Emily had lived. He stood on the sidewalk, his heart pounding, a lifetime of questions converging on this one moment. He took a deep breath and walked up to the door. He raised his hand to knock, his knuckles trembling. The door opened, and standing there, her face a mixture of surprise and something else, something that mirrored the shock in his own eyes, was Emily. Decades had passed, lines now etched around her eyes, a touch of gray in her hair, but it was undeniably Emily. His Emily. They stared at each other across the threshold, the years melting away, leaving only the raw, unexpected reality of the present moment. James, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Emily, he managed, his voice thick with emotion. We need to talk. She stepped aside, inviting him in. They sat in her living room, a quiet, comfortable space filled with the scent of lavender and old books. The air was thick with unspoken history, with the ghosts of young love and unexplained loss. Slowly, haltingly, the story unfolded. Emily tearfully explained that she had discovered her pregnancy shortly after James had last seen her. She had been so young, so scared. Her parents, fearing the scandal, the impact on their daughter's future, had made a swift, difficult decision. They had sent her away to stay with her aunt in another state, far from James, far from the life she knew, to have the baby in secret and place him for adoption. They didn't want you to know, James, Emily explained, tears streaming down her face. They thought it would ruin your future, too, that you wouldn't be ready or able to raise a child. They said it was for the best, for all of us. She spoke of the heartbreak of giving up her baby, the quiet grief she had carried for years. She told him about placing him in the care of the orphanage, the hope that he would find a loving home. She confessed that she had sometimes driven by the orphanage, just to catch a glimpse, to know he was safe. Then a few years ago, she had received unexpected contact. Michael and Sarah, Thomas's adoptive parents, wanting to build a connection between Thomas and his birth mother, had reached out. A cautious, tentative relationship had blossomed, one built on mutual respect and a shared love for Thomas. Emily spoke of Michael and Sarah with immense gratitude, of the wonderful life they had given Thomas. And she spoke of Thomas, their son, with a love that had grown from a painful sacrifice into a quiet, tender bond. James listened, his mind reeling with the magnitude of the truth. His son, he had a son with the girl he had loved so deeply, a son he had never known existed, growing up just a few towns away, a child of his own blood, his own reflection. The anger and hurt he had carried for years about Emily's sudden disappearance began to transform, giving way to a complex mix of emotions, astonishment, grief for the lost years, and a burgeoning sense of wonder, a miracle emerging from pain. He looks just like you, James, Emily said softly, a small, sad smile on her face. Especially when you were his age. I always saw it in the photos Michael and Sarah shared. It was like looking at a ghost. James shared his encounter at the orphanage, seeing Thomas, that striking resemblance, and the dizzying revelation of his name and connection to Emily. It felt like fate, a thread woven through their lives, finally drawing them back together. Amidst the tears and explanations, a new possibility emerged. James wanted to know Thomas, to be a part of his life. Emily, seeing the love and longing in his eyes, agreed to speak with Michael and Sarah. Michael and Sarah, true to their generous and compassionate nature, were open to the idea. They understood the importance of Thomas knowing his biological father, of completing that piece of his story. They saw the chance to expand the circle of love around their son. The day James first truly met Thomas as his son was both joyful and overwhelming. Thomas, already comfortable with James from their meeting at the orphanage, seemed to accept this new reality with a child's open heart. James, hesitant at first, unsure of his place, found himself quickly drawn into Thomas's world, sharing stories, teaching him simple carpentry tricks, watching him play with a newfound sense of connection and belonging. It wasn't a simple transition. There were adjustments, new boundaries to navigate, a long history of absence to acknowledge. But Michael and Sarah were incredibly supportive, welcoming James into their extended family with genuine warmth. Emily, too, found a quiet sense of peace in the mending of the past, her relationship with James transforming into a different kind of bond, one built on shared history and a mutual love for their son. James became a constant presence in Thomas's life. He attended his baseball games, helped him with school projects, shared the wisdom he had gained over a lifetime. He wasn't replacing Michael, who was and would always be Thomas's dad, but he was adding another layer of love, another branch to Thomas's family tree. Thomas seemed to thrive with the expanded circle of family, surrounded by even more love and support. Decades ago, a secret had torn apart two young lovers and hidden the existence of a child. The pain and confusion had shaped their lives in ways they could never have anticipated. But in the bustling playroom of an orphanage, on a seemingly ordinary day, a chance encounter, a striking resemblance, and a name whispered brought a long-buried truth to light. And from the ashes of a broken past, a new kind of family, unexpected and beautiful, began to bloom, proving that sometimes even the most painful secrets can lead to the most precious gifts, and that love in all its forms has a remarkable way of finding its way home.